My first rental made me exactly $0, and I'd still buy it again. Sounds like a bad investment, right? Because the whole pitch of a rental property is supposed to be passive income. You buy the house, the tenant pays the mortgage, and then you keep the difference. That is what I thought I was buying. What I actually bought was a second job, a math lesson, and one of the clearest examples of how wealth gets built slowly and not very glamorously. I'm not going to talk you into buying a rental. I'm going to show you the part of the rental math people usually leave out because it's the difference between I bought an asset and I just bought more stress. So by the end of this, you'll understand why a rental looks so profitable on paper, can make you no income in year one. Here's the version of rental investing that gets the most attention online. Rent comes in, mortgage goes out. Whatever left over is cash flow. So let's say the rent is $2,000 a month and your mortgage, taxes, and insurance is $1,700. That leaves $300 a month for easy math. $300 a month sounds small, but it's also clean. And not gonna lie, most investors would take that. And technically the number isn't fake. Your expenses are just not over. So before a tenant moves out, before something breaks, before you realize passive income requires a large amount of documentation, receipts, invoices, and decisions attached. There are 4 costs I wish someone had explained to me before I bought my first rental, and the first one hit before I even had collected a single dollar of rent. The first one is vacancy. Tenants leave, and when they leave, the mortgage does not say, you have a break. You are responsible to clean, repair, list, show, screen, approve, and move in new tenants. My property sat empty for about 6 weeks. 6 weeks, there was no rent coming in. That alone was roughly a few $1,000s out of pocket before the investment even had a chance to feel like an investment. The second is maintenance. This is where the house reminds you that old phones wear out, things happen, you get hit with a $1,500 water heater bill, tenant calls you at 2 a.m. in the morning saying the toilet is clogged. All while you pray and hope the AC doesn't go out midsummer because it's over 100 degrees in Las Vegas. And bam, another $10,000 out of pocket. If something essential breaks, it has to be handled legally. A good rule of thumb is to set aside at least 1 to 2% of the property's value every year for maintenance. So on a $300,000 property, that can mean between $3,000 to $6,000 a year. The third cost is management. You can manage the property yourself, which saves money, but you are the person getting the plumbing call at 2 a.m. in the morning, which you have to handle. Or you hire a property manager, which can cost between 8 to 10% of rent. On $2,000 of rent, that might be between $160 to $200 a month, which means more than half of your supposed $300 profit can disappear just because you do not want to personally coordinate a toilet repair while you're away at dinner. That actually happened to me, by the way. In New York City, I was having dinner at a brand new restaurant with some friends. I was stuck on the phone probably 75% of the time trying to figure out who was available very late at night. The fourth cost is CapEx, which is the investor word for expensive things you really hope don't happen. Roof, HVAC, flooring, appliances, major systems, they don't happen every month, which is exactly why people forget them. So when you add vacancy, maintenance, management, CapEx, that $300 a month, the math and the question changes. It's no longer how much passive income did I make? It's did I make any income at all? So if you're new to real estate and you're just solely looking at the numbers and you want to be cheap, I can promise you your first year will be very humbling. So on paper, my rental was supposed to make around $3,600 in annual cash flow. In real life, vacancy ate a big part of it. Maintenance ate the rest. By the end of year one, my cash flow was basically zero. Not in a dramatic internet way, like, what did I do all that work for way? But at the end of the day, I had a property, a lot more experience, and I had much more realistic understanding of what people mean when they say real estate is not passive at the beginning. And here's where the story gets weird, because if you only look at income, it sounds like a failure. But if you look at ownership, it starts to look very different. The mistake I made was thinking the cash flow was the whole point. It wasn't. It was just the easiest number to understand. Because while I was breaking even, the tenant was paying down my loan. The mortgage balance was shrinking. My equity was growing. And I was gaining ownership in an asset I didn't have to pay for completely on my own. That is the part of real estate that sounds less exciting, but matters more. I wasn't really buying monthly income. I was buying time, leverage, and ownership. And that's why the passive income pitch can be so misleading. It makes people think the win is supposed to show up immediately as extra spending money. I know that doesn't sound as flashy as I make $300 a month while I sleep, but it's more honest. And honestly, it's more interesting. Because breaking even while building ownership is very different from just breaking even. A first rental is usually not passive at the beginning. It may not feel like income, especially in year one. It's more like patient leverage. I'm Allie, and I'm genuinely curious about how businesses and modern trends actually work, and I'll be sharing with you what I learned throughout this journey.